What's going on YouTube? So I just got done watching the Canelo and Bivol fight, and I'll be the first to say that I got to eat crow for saying that Canelo will beat Bivol. Um, I'm a huge fan of Canelo first and foremost, but that's not going to stop me from admitting that that Bivol beat Canelo fair and square. All right. And because, I try to be as honest as I can be, because to be a good analyst, or to be, whatever you want to call it, to be a good analyst, if you're talking about the sport of boxing, the best way to be is honest all the time. So my honest opinion about the fight. The judges, all three judges had it as a unanimous decision for, I want to say the score was, I scored it right here. The score, all three judges had a unanimous decision going in Bivol's favor, in which they scored it 115 to 113, which to me is straight up BS. I had the fight 117 to 111 in Bivol's favor. I had Bivol winning, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I had Bivol winning 9 rounds to 3, okay? And I'm trying to figure out how the judges scored it in that manner. That's just crazy to me. But regardless, at least they got it right. Because, I'm going to be the first to say that there have been a number of occasions, well, there have been about 1 or 2 occasions where Canelo, I had Canelo down on a scorecard, but he still managed to win in the end by decision. So I'm glad that the judges at least got the right guy winning, all right? I just feel like that's a bullshit scorecard to have it that close, and it wasn't. But regardless of the fact, to get into the breakdown of what happened, Canelo, it started looking pretty scary early on, if you ask me. I gave Bivol the first 2 rounds. Rounds 3 and 4, I scored for Canelo. So I had it 2-2 by the 4th round, all right? I had Bivol winning rounds 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I had Canelo winning rounds 9, okay? Where he looked like he started to make a few adjustments by moving his head more. I'm gonna get into all of that in a minute. But rounds 10 through 12, I had Bivol winning and finishing out those championship rounds strong. All right. As far as Canelo's strengths, what he did well, from what I've gathered and from what I've observed, Canelo was able to walk down Bivol with effective aggression in the earlier rounds, all right? He was able to land a lot of hooks and uppercuts while Bivol held his high guard up. He was able to back up Bivol to the ropes as well, all right? And he was able to penetrate Bivol's guard behind landing a 1-1 and a 4, a double jab and a hook. He would land a double jab behind a right hook to follow it, all right? He also made a proper adjustment in the 9th round, which I was just about to explain earlier. Canelo started to move his head more, which he wasn't doing in the fight in the earlier rounds. He looked way different, all right? It looks to me as though 175 isn't his weight class. That's obviously he lost his second fight. Way back when he fought Kovalev. Kovalev was older, and it was brought to my attention that he was a last-minute replacement. That happened so long ago, so I forgot about all of that. But the bottom line is that Kovalev was out of his bag at that point in time. And even in the earlier rounds when he fought Kovalev, it was looking a little shaky for Canelo. But he made the proper adjustments then and was able to knock out Kovalev. Bivol is much younger, and he's way more technical than Kovalev will ever be, all right? Or have ever been. And that makes a major difference when Canelo's facing a light heavyweight, as we've seen, all right? And also to finish off, the strengths of Canelo in this fight, he was able to take. I mean, I was surprised at the fact that he was able to stand up, to still stand after taking some hard, clean, flush shots from Bivol. All right, Bivol was able to land a lot of clean shots. I'm talking hooks and straight rights down the pipe that to where it was spots in that fight where I thought that Canelo would actually go down. All right. As far as what I felt Canelo could have been doing better, as I've already mentioned, Canelo looks slow at 175. All right. I wouldn't want to, obviously, there's no point in seeing him versus Joe Smith Jr. or Beterbiev. As a matter of fact, I believe that between those two, obviously, there's no point in seeing that. But between all of those three guys, I believe that Canelo will probably have a better time with Joe Smith Jr. Not to say that he will win. I believe that he would have a better chance against Joe Smith Jr. because Joe Smith Jr. is a slow puncher, but he is hard hitting. But I believe that Canelo would have an easier time defensively against a guy like Joe Smith Jr. who throws slow combinations, all right, and who's not as elusive, okay, as a guy like Bivol. And I'll even go as far as to say that I don't even think that Canelo would have an easy fight with Beterbiev, all right? If he can't, I think that the pressure that Beterbiev applies and the fact that he can be technical himself and he has a strong chin, I believe that would be a hell of a fight between him and Canelo. But I believe that Beterbiev, him being a naturally bigger guy like Bivol and that type of pressure, the type of pressure he applies in addition to being a high volume puncher, I think that would be a problem for Canelo. And I don't think that he would be able to hurt Beterbiev. So to get back on topic, Canelo wasn't really moving his head as much in this fight. All right, he seemed like he was gassing out. He seemed like he gassed out by rounds 4 or 5. He didn't look too strong, all right? He was breathing through his mouth and everything. Bivol was able to back him up, and that let me know that he was bound to be in for a long night, all right? Canelo was also spending a lot of time on the rope. He was spending way too much time on the ropes, and I guess that was his way of trying to bait Bivol to throw a shot where Canelo could, I guess, try to capitalize off of a countering opportunity, and Bivol was smart enough not to engage, even though I felt as though Bivol should have took those opportunities to at least, fight behind a jab, pause jab, and kind of like how Mayweather did against Canelo years ago, where when Canelo was backed up on the ropes, he would touch him with the jab to the body and to the head, and then he would time Canelo with some hard shots, with some right hands in between him pulling his jab to keep Canelo's guard occupied, all right? Canelo's combos looked way slower. He wasn't able to string his combos together at all. And against a guy who has good reflexes like Bivol, you wanna be a little quicker to get your punches off, which Canelo was able to get his punches off against Bivol. There was spots in the fight where he was actually looking strong and he was backing Bivol up. But, I mean, Bivol, his chin is phenomenal. I mean, and he showed a lot of durability. So, and as I predicted, he's a 12-round fighter. And I predicted that the fight, at least I got one thing right, where I predicted that Bivol would be a 12-round fighter, all right? And that he would be more durable. So at least I got a few things right. But everything else I got wrong. And I got to eat crow. I'm going to say that again. You know what I'm saying? So, and another thing that I noticed is that Canelo's hands were down on the inside where he got caught over and over again, all right? I understand that Canelo has reflexes, but when you're gassed, bro, you got to be technically sound. You know what I'm saying? And I get it, you're tired. Your arms, your shoulders are probably worn down between the middle to the late rounds. But dude, you gotta hold your hands up when you're inside against a strong opponent in Bivol, you know? So those are the weaknesses that I've gathered from watching Canelo, from watching things, from watching Canelo's antics. All right. Now we about to get into Bivol. Bivol was strong with and another weakness that I realized from watching Canelo, he wasn't jabbing as much. He started to jab a little bit more. He started to have more of an active jab in the later rounds, but at that point it was too late. You know, seemed like he was spending a lot of time trying to rely on applying, front foot pressure by, using those feints and stepping in to try to back up Bivol. But Bivol's jab he was active with his jab. I mean, his jab was effective. And he had that jab probing out there all night long, man. And that had a lot to do with his success in this entire fight. And I predicted that and other analysts have predicted that a strong jab can negate a guy like Canelo. And that's exactly what happened, That man Bivol was barely taking body shots, except for when he was standing on the inside with Canelo. When Bivol would get in range and up close with Canelo, Canelo was able to land those body shots. But for the most part, when the fight was kept from the mid-range to the outside in Bivol's favor, Bivol was able to evade a lot of those because he was moving his body. He was moving his entire body using his legs and lateral movement to avoid body shots coming from Canelo, which was beautiful. Bivol was letting combinations go behind a lot of straight punches as well. He was using a lot of straight punches and would even mix some hooks and uppercuts. Primarily hooks, though. Primarily hooks in between his combinations. So in between Bivol's combinations himself. Dude, Bivol looks phenomenal. And there were some people under my comment section in my prediction video. And those guys, I got to give you guys credit for, stating y'all case. Because y'all said exactly what would happen. So credit to y'all guys if y'all, come across this video. I think I've already mentioned that, yeah, I did. Dude, Bivol was showing durability, and he showed a phenomenal chin. He was taking some flush shots from Canelo as well. Not only was Bivol catching Canelo, but Canelo was also catching Bivol. And Bivol was, dude, I mean, that dude is tough as nails, bruh. He was also countering Canelo more than Canelo was countering him. Bivol was catching Canelo coming in, and he would also time Canelo, which Bivol is the dude is crazy good. He was also switching the style round by round. He didn't keep the same style. Like, there were rounds where he would use his feet and move around the ring using ring generalship, and there were rounds where he would stand in front of Canelo and he would trade with him. If Canelo initiated an attack, Bivol himself would finish the attack, all right, by catching Canelo right after Canelo would finish his combination of either a one-shot combo or when Canelo would try to string together some combinations, Bivol would finish strong. So he was answering Canelo a lot in this fight, and surprisingly, Bivol was able to hold his ground on the inside as well, and he was able to tire out Canelo as well, which I've never seen that before. And I think, well, it ain't no I think. I know that Canelo was hurt multiple times. And Canelo did a good job of hiding it, masking it, but Bivol was he was taking it to Canelo, man. As far as Bivol's weaknesses, I noticed that he was spending a lot of time on the inside with Canelo, where he had some success, but Canelo was coming on strong in spots where he was able to stand in the pocket with Bivol, all right? And Canelo had the advantage there. And Those were some of the rounds that had something to do with why I gave Canelo those 3 rounds, okay? And I feel as though Bivol was not he wasn't as aggressive enough when Canelo was on the ropes. Showing I feel like Bivol was showing him too much respect because if I was Bivol, as I've explained earlier, I would be initiating the attack and taking advantage of Canelo on the ropes. You know, I feel like he was showing him way too much respect in that regards. But regardless of the fact, Canelo showed more weaknesses than Bivol in this fight. And 175 is just not Canelo's place to be. All right. And even with me saying that, I gotta give Canelo credit for taking on such a tough challenge when guys were saying that Errol Spence or Jamal Charlo or Boo Boo Andrade will pose a problem to Canelo. All right. That's bullshit to me. And Bivol will be a tougher challenge than any of those guys any day of the week. So I'm not one of those, I'm not trying to, hear none of that. If anybody has something to say in regards to Errol Spence posing a challenge, because Errol Spence is way too small, all right? If that's the case, people were saying that Canelo should fight Errol Spence because he's a superstar. If that's your argument, I'll go as far as to say this. If that's the case, Gervonta Davis should come all the way up in weight to fight Canelo Alvarez himself because he's a superstar as well. And I already know what the argument would be to that. People will start saying, well, Gervonta Davis is way too small to come up in weight to fight Canelo. Well, so is Spence. They're like 3 to 4 weight divisions apart. So I hope y'all get my point when I say that. But anyway, back on topic. Canelo Alvarez, you did your best, and I like how you showed class and that you didn't make excuses like most fighters would, all right? He took his loss like a man, and I'm a Canelo fan, and I got to call it how I see it. And that dude lost fair and square, point blank, period. And those judges, I feel like I should replace those judges because those guys scored at 115 to 113. You guys are crazy. You guys are crazy. Anyway, that's all I got to say as far as this fight is concerned, y'all. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I would like to know what you guys have to say in regards to what I've stated, everything that I've stated, and what you guys may have noticed that maybe I didn't explain. I didn't catch on to. So yeah, that's all I got to say. Please like, share, and subscribe, and comment below.